Hello, so today we will be doing something a little bit different. Today we will actually just be doing a deck tech of the deck I ran for the March core tournament, and that is orcs. So, yeah, let's get into it. As our hero, we play a Broxigar because he's just really good into mid range. Um, He's really good into mid range, especially when you have things like Shadowpan Monastery and Shadowpan Shuriken to just deal one to some pretty bulky creatures, and then Broxigar just deals three to them. Of course, not ideal, as you probably don't want to be spending 3 mana to get rid of something in an aggro deck like orcs, but it does come in handy sometimes, and overall, he's just a really good hero. So next, let's go over quests and locations. So first we have Blackrock Spire, which is just an absolutely insane card because most of the time, since even if you're losing as an orc deck, you still probably have more damage on your opponent's hero than on yourself. So Blackrock Spire is basically always active, and just for 3 mana, a location being able to just pump out a 2/2 that just goes face and smashes is really good. So Blackrock Spire, definitely a really good card. Next is Shadowpan Monastery. This card is also just a really good location because 1 damage can go anywhere, and 1 damage also really synergizes with Broxigar when needed. Like for instance, a Gammon, you can just flip Shadowpan, and then Broxigar's basic ability, and the Gammon is dead. Also, Broxigar has a back ability where he gains +1 attack for each 5 damage on him. Sometimes you can use that as really late game finishers, although you're usually not around for super late game. So yeah, Shadowpan Monastery, also a really good card. Next, we have the Fall of the Lordaeron. It's only as a two of, because what this card does is just pump up your orcs as a finisher, right? So this is definitely not a star, but it comes into handy in some really specific moments, and it's always good to have that two of in your deck. Next is Toretha's Diversion, which is just an insane quest in and of itself. That said, as orcs, you usually don't want to be spending 2 mana just to disrupt your opponent's game plan a little bit, so that's only as a two of. Next is the Well of Eternity, which makes sure that we always have 2 or 3 cards in our hand, as if we run out, we just pay to 2 mana, and then we just get to draw another card. So that's definitely really good. Next is a Shadowpan Shuriken, which acts like the Shadowpan Monastery, except it is also a weapon which can really do some stuff, and it also combos pretty well with Broxigar. Um, Next is Legacy of the Legion, which is just a huge finisher, and it's basically almost like our win con because this card is just absolutely insane. Only a three of because it is extremely expensive for what we're trying to do, but this card is really, really good, so it's in the deck. Next is Manifested Anger, which is also kind of like a late game kill. If you just, for instance, have a 5/5 Fellhound, and then you just Manifested Anger it, that's 10 damage to face, right? As a four of, because you can also use it sometimes to do other stuff, but most times you're just putting manifested anger face down as a resource, and then late game when you top deck it, you just play it and smash face. Next is Feldrake. Feldrake is absolutely insane because zero mana, you just play it on turn one, and it usually deals at least 10 damage in a game because of the amount of quests and locations we have, right? So Feldrake is just a really, really good card overall. Next is General Nosgrim, which is also absolutely insane because as an orc deck, the fact that you're overstated means that you can't really trade, and General Nosgrim is just a fairly bulky creature that can trade. Um, Only a three of though, because you don't want to be trading usually, and also doesn't really do much against horde against the horde opponent. Um, so yeah. Then we have Vorgo, which I mean Vorgo is just an extremely flexible card, and he's an orc. So Vorgo is a four of because let's say you just play him on one. On turn two, he's probably active because Feldrake probably just took made your opponent lose two health. So then he's already 2-2. Then turn three, he's a 4-4 smash four at the face. And he's just a really good card that forces removal, even when he's not the biggest threat. Next is Takara, Time Walker Warlord, and I mean, Takara is just a 2 mana 3-4 with ferocity. So I mean, it's just an insane card to just send damage upstairs when you're playing against a when you're playing against a control deck because they usually don't have a lot of creatures. So I mean, Takara doesn't even let them draw a card. So it's just I mean an overstated minion that can go face. Next is Garrosh, son of Grom, and Garrosh is also insane because he's overstated, makes more orcs, and has ferocity. So Garrosh is really good. That said, he is also really expensive, just like the Legacy of the Legion. So he is only a three of. And then lastly, we have Time Walker Grunt, which I mean deals damage for the amount of orcs you have at the beginning of every turn. If you somehow untap with like three different orcs on with three grunts on the battlefield, one on turn one, two on turn two, your opponent has nothing. Turn three, you're just smashing. Um, that's 9 damage that they're just dealing. So Time Walker Grunt, even if you just untap with one, it still chips in a lot of damage. Um, and then it also fills in your curve. And yeah, Time Walker Grunt overall, really good card. That's it for the main deck. Now let's move on to the sideboard. First, we have the Scourge of Lordron, which is a two of. When playing against Death Knights, I mean, this card is just absolutely insane in all formats because it just shuts down Death Knights and more. Anything that has to do with the graveyard, this just shuts them down completely. Um, in this form, in core at the moment, Death Knights are not spectacular, so I don't even need three, just two is fine. Um, because with how aggro my list is, Death Knights can't really do anything, a even if they have really good graveyard synergy set up. Next is what is worth fighting for, which you just sideboard in if you win the game. On game two, you just sideboard what is worth fighting for in. Um, this is an insanely good card because 3 mana, draw two. This is an insane reload for this deck. It just it just costs 1 mana more than the Well of Eternity and draws you 1 card more. And the Well of Eternity is already a pretty good card, so what is worth fighting for? Really, really good. Next is Burnaway. Um, it kills abilities, like for instance pacify abilities. So anything that makes our dudes not able to attack or things like that, or just like things that get in the way. So blocking damage. This just gets rid of them then and there. It's a really good card. And then lastly, Decimate, which gets rid of 2 equipments for 3 mana. So it's really, really flexible. And it also just gets rid of armor, gets rid of really good staple weapons, and things like that. So Decimate's a good card. And that is it for this deck tech. Hope you like it and understand why the cards are in here a little bit more. And with that said, goodbye.